Hi there, I am the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And today I'm offering a devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit, and for the soul. It's titled, Hallowed be all our names, the living and the dead. So let's prepare ourselves. Let's invite actually a loving presence to be amongst us and to awaken from deep, deep within us all. I have lit the flame of freedom in this cup of belonging, acceptance of and love. To face the world's shadows, a chalice of light. To face the world's coldness, a chalice of warmth. To face the world's terrors, a chalice of courage. To face the world's turmoil, a chalice of peace. May its glow fill our spirits, our hearts, our lives. So today is the 31st of October. It's All Hallows Eve or Halloween or Halloween. Tomorrow is All Souls Day or All Hallows Day itself, which is followed on the 2nd of November by All Souls Day, a time in the Christian calendar to remember all souls who have departed this life. Now, like other Christian fellows, including Christmas festivals, like other Christian festivals, should I say, including Christmas, Easter, and Whitsuntide, these three autumn days are a fascinating mixture of pre-Christian, Christian, and even post-Christian, you might say, tradition and mythos. I am fairly certain that the children going door to door at Halloween are probably unaware that they have created a modern day variant on the pre Christian festival of Samhain, a festival that not only celebrated harvest, but was also a time to commune with the spirits of ancestors. There are similar traditions throughout many cultures in the autumn of the year and the winter, of course. For autumn, particularly autumn, beautiful autumn, wonderful autumn, glorious autumn, best of the year. Autumn is a time of reflection, a time to take stock before the harsh realities of winter set in, before the harsh realities come. Now, Halloween here in the north of England is something that is marked, at least in a secular sense, it's marked far more than I remember in my childhood, really. When I was a child, a kid, a lad, it was Guy Fawkes or Bonfire Night that took on far greater significance. I don't remember really going trick or treating. We did other things, really, going door to door until a significant film came out in 1982. I would be 10, I'd be just about 11 actually at the time. And at this point, everything changed. The film was E.T. the Extraterrestrial, one of the most commercially successful films of all time, and one that changed something significantly, certainly in my life and perhaps the culture of the north of England, certainly where I come from in Yorkshire. I recall, as many others did, that after this, going door to door, trick or treating, replaced the tradition of going door to door asking for a penny for the guy. And of course, it kind of brought an end, mostly at least, to a mischievous night. It seems that these traditions all got swallowed up with trick or treating. Mischievous Night, at least in Yorkshire, came on the 4th of November and was linked to the gunpowder plot and, of course, Fireworks Night that is marked on the 5th of November. Things could kind of get pretty wild on Mischievous Night, and some, I'm sure, are glad to see that it's pretty much been lost to history, gone the way of the dodo, if you like. You do hear of little pockets of it in some of the northern cities of, say, Liverpool and Leeds, but mainly it's gone the way of the dodo and has been replaced by trick or treating. Interestingly, there is an American variant on Mischievous Night, which was held the day before Halloween, it seems, and it kind of has a similar theme. So we've kind of imported it back. I think it was exported to North America 200 years ago from the north of England, and they've kind of ET brought it back here. I think in the tradition that it is today. There is a part of me that wishes it wasn't like this. I remember the thrill of getting up to no good with friends and of hearing of similar tales of other friends who were far more daring than I. I also remember my old granddad telling me of things that he and his mate Percy used to get up to. They were wilder than we were. I remember the delight in this night of freedom that the children were granted once a year. A freedom I fear that children of today don't enjoy in the same way. They go door to door, but they go supervised, really, don't they? I think we had a different kind of freedom in our childhoods, a more innocent freedom, perhaps. Now, November is remembrance season, and remembrance season, I think, begins on this day. Remember, Samhain was about connecting with the ancestors, the lost souls. Our age and culture has in recent times become a little death-defying and death-denying, dare I say. The last 18 months or more, though, brought this more sharply into focus. We have had to face the fragility of life, our mortality, and the realization that everything that we seemingly think that we depend upon is finite, that it can be broken. That we are mortal and that life is fragile, that impermanence truly is the nature of life. Halloween, like the Mexican Day of the Dead, is about fun and joy, but there is something serious beneath these ancient traditions that are played out in our more modern, sanitized culture. There's something deep, there's a depth to them that I think sometimes we miss in our secular lives. Maybe they're coming back, I don't know. We've sanitized things though, and by contrast, as Mary Ann Brussart has highlighted, many of the great teachers from the religious traditions recommend that we face death and even befriend it. St. Benedict tells us to keep death daily before our eyes. Medieval philosophers kept a skull on their desks to remind them of the impermanence of life. Rabbi Harold Kushner interprets poet Wallace Stevens' comment, "Death is the mother of beauty," to mean that we cherish and find things beautiful precisely because they know that they will not be around forever, nor will we always be here to enjoy them. Death, in other words, brings meaning to life. It brings a kind of depth to life. It really does. It makes life seem more important, more precious, more sacred, really. Now, we live in an age where violence is often glorified in our culture, but in a way that it makes the violence almost seem unreal, detached, not actually happening. We see it on our screens, but we rarely experience it face to face. It is sanitized, and we are detached from it. Really, we're not engaged emotionally. Almost, in fact, we're disengaged. It's a visual feast, if you like. We glorify violence whilst at the same time deny the reality of death, the brutality of violence, the horror of violence. In so doing, we make life itself seem somewhat unreal, not a sacred or holy thing. We do not hallow one another, do we? We fail to recognize the sacredness in life itself, and thus existence becomes meaningless. Is it any wonder that a sense of despair is on the increase? If we take away the things which bring superficial meaning to our lives, what's left? As we see in the last 18 months, people falling apart. Surely there's a better way. Well, I believe that there is, and I believe that the way is to sanctify life, to make everything holy, to hallow all of our names, to recognize the sacredness of all souls, both the living and the dead. I'm an early riser, and I like to get up very early on Sunday mornings. Ridiculously early, if I'm being honest, to say I have such a busy day ahead. I am usually in Altrincham at my office not long before 6 a.m. really, or not long after, about 6 a.m. I go and do a little exercise. I then prepare myself for the day. I sanctify the day as I prepare to lead worship. And I do it 2 or 3 times that morning, really. I then set off to Erms, and I like to arrive there no later than 8:30, really, even though the service doesn't begin till 10 a.m. There's no one else around, no one else comes till about 9:30. So I open up, I set up, I prepare myself, go through my scripts and my notes, etc., for the service, etc., make sure everything's ready. And then I like to take a walk. I walk down Queen's Road to the cemetery, and I walk round the cemetery reading different headstones and contemplating the lives of those people. People that have touched so many other lives, people that I never knew but who meant so much to others. I honour the dead, which in some way enables me to better serve the living, I think. It helps me connect really in really deep and important ways. It helps me connect to the sacredness of life itself. There's nothing morbid in this activity. It enables me to connect to the preciousness of the lives that have touched my life and who are no longer with me. I say to myself, hallowed be each of your names. And it helps me recognize the sacredness of each soul, not just on the 2nd of November, but every day. For every day is a holy day, and all ground is holy ground, and each person is a holy, hallowed one, I believe from the core of their being. It helps me to recognize the sacredness of all life, for I believe everything matters. Matter really matters, you see. We are all holy and acceptable as we are, even the aspects of ourselves that we would prefer to hide, that we would prefer the world not to see, the things that bring us shame. All these our whole lives are acceptable. If we hide some aspect of our lives or attempt to hide from others who we are, these aspects of our humanity will only come to the surface through our shadow, and they will cause damage. I know mine do. I certainly have done, and mine still do. I have seen evidence of this these last few months. Personal grief has brought aspects of myself to the surface once again that I have not wanted to face, but in the end I have had to face them. We should never be ashamed of any aspect of our humanity. We are acceptable and lovable as we are, exactly as we are, this and every moment. I experienced a wonderful moment after last Sunday's service in Altrincham. 2 newer members asked me about sin, actually, suggesting that we're not all about it here, are we? They then said something rather peculiar. They said that I never offer absolution to them for their shortcomings. And I half jokingly said, well, how could I do such a thing? Look at me. But how could I? Who am I to think I can, actually? Who am I to think that that's my role in life? It certainly isn't. Everyone falls short of their ideals, but nothing is born wrong at their core, is rotten to the core or selfish to the core, as I hear some people say. I believe, I see actually, that we are all born whole and holy. This is why I say, hallowed be all of our names. That said, we all fall short. We all get things wrong, every single one of us sometimes. The mistake is to try to hide and enshadow these aspects of our humanity, and this is where the problems come from, or so I've come to believe. The starting point is not wrongness. If the starting point is that we are wrong, where do we go? Well, the starting point is that we're born in beautiful blessing, but we fall short of our ideals, what we're aiming to be at times. I do. Doesn't mean that I'm wrong from the core of my being, though. How could I be? How could any of us be? What can we do? Well, perhaps the ancient tradition of Samhain can help us here, for I feel it is closest in connection to all souls, really, this recognition of all souls, in its spirit at least. Perhaps here we will find the true meaning of the next few days, really. Perhaps the whole season of remembrance, perhaps this whole month. At this time, It's a time where we can remember our lost loved ones, a time where the veil between the living and the dead is said to be most thin. We can re-feel these experiences we touch and are touched by those who are no longer physically with us, but are still with us in our hearts, in our minds, in our spirits and our souls. It might also be a time when we allow ourselves to be visited by the ghosts within us, really, those aspects of our humanity that we try to keep hidden, the things that cause us pain and shame. We all have them. I know I do. I've been visited by them only recently. And they don't stay hidden forever. Maybe we need to greet them like a long lost friend, like the Rumi poem, invite them all in. Maybe this is what Halloween and all these autumn festivals are truly about, actually. They are there to allow us to come to terms with our whole humanity, and that each of us, maybe that's what the ancestors are trying to teach us anyway, to really come to terms with the whole of who we are, the whole of what everybody is. Maybe that's what this time of year is about, really. Time to be still and silent and to nestle down and to connect to those deeper realities where I believe God is in all of us, in everything. That divine aspect deep down within each of us, that starting point that is holy, whole, and good, that we sometimes don't always manifest in our lives, that we fall short of this natural goodness. Maybe it's time to slow down, to connect, and to allow that to come to life. But it means we have to see the dark stuff too, come face to face with the dark. We need not fear the dark. I'm going to end this little devotion with a little bit of Wendell Berry. I Go Among the Trees by Wendell Berry. I go among the trees and sit still. All my stirring becomes quiet around me like circles of water. My tasks lie in their places where I left them, asleep like cattle. Then what is afraid of me comes and lives a while in my sight. What it fears in me leaves me, and the fear of me leaves it. It sings, and I hear its song. Then what I am afraid of comes. I live for a while in its sight. What I fear in it leaves it, and the fear of it leaves me. It sings, and I hear its song. After days of labour, moot in my consternations, I hear my song at last, and I sing it. As we sing, the day turns, the trees move. So I'm going to end this little reflection with some final words of blessing. You know, we need to bless more. And we can all bless. We bless by giving our whole hearts to life. So let's begin right now. Let's give our whole hearts to life. Some final words of blessing. There is finally only one thing required of us. That is to take life whole, the sunlight and shadows together, to live the life that is given us with courage and humour and truth. We have such a little moment out of the vastness of time for all our wondering and loving. Therefore let there be no half-heartedness. Rather, let the soul be ardent in its pain, in its yearning, in its praise. Then shall peace enfold our days, and glory shall not fade from our lives. Let's carry this vision with us. Let's give birth to the divine within each of us. May God go with us in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, and all that we do. Go in love, go in peace. Amen.